So what's going on guys, Kid here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today we are checking out the top 5 best solo player classes in Black Desert Online. So BDO has over 24 different classes, with different abilities and their unique playstyles. But the big question is, which classes are the best specifically for solo players? So I will give you 5 different classes that are the best, and which will help you out to farm monsters very quickly and easily. You will be able to dominate all the other players in 1v1 and small scale PvP and much more. So if this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So then moving over to the first solo player class, and it is the Striker. The Striker class uses gauntlets as their primary weapon and the Vambrace as their secondary weapon. At level 56, Striker unlocks his Awakening weapon, and he can use this to summon clones of the Striker to deal damage alongside him. The Striker uses melee ranged punches and kicks. He specializes in martial arts and has many complex combos that deal burst of damage in a short time, while also being very tanky. The combos are designed to be very tricky, and players might find Striker hard to master, but not hard to pick up if you are a new player. Striker is very strong in PvE with good clearing speed, but he rarely uses potions when grinding as long as all the skills are rotated in the right order. Striker really excels in small scale PvP, so 1v1 and open world. Striker's pros are that he has high damage burst, he's very tanky, he has bunch of CC chains, he has short range mobility, which is useful in PvP and PvE. Then he needs less potions for grinding mobs, so you can save up some gold. Then he's very strong in small scale PvP, and then lastly he has a second grab skill, which is unprotected but very useful. And then for the cons, this class can be slow and has clunky animations, so it sometimes can be easy for the enemy to predict your movement. Then as the Striker is meant for melee combat, so you lack range mobility, making it hard to outrun other classes. Then as well you have complex combos, so this class can be hard to master. And then lastly you have low crit rate. So overall, if you're looking for a strong and fun solo class that is one of the strongest in small scale PvP and you have a good clearing speed in PvE as well, then this is the class for you. So then going over to the second solo class, which is the Guardian. This class is the most recommended by almost all the endgame players. Black Desert Online can be complicated, especially at the start, and for most classes you have to learn the DPS rotation, and basically you have to put bunch of hours just to be able to play the class. But not the Guardian, because she is the exception. This class doesn't have a lot of skills, and you basically only need to use 3 to 4 buttons for the whole damage rotation, because she has something called lingering animations, which makes that her skills sometimes are much longer than other classes. So for example, when you click Shift Q, you can hit God Incineration. That takes a long time to do it, and at the same time on a different class, I can go through an entire rotation. So for example, the Striker can do 3 to 4 skills, when Guardian just uses 1. So for that reason, Guardian is very good for beginner players. You get very low APM, which stands for actions per minute, which means that you put a lot less effort in spamming your mouse and keyboard button. So for example, when I play on my Striker, I usually do around 70 APM when grinding, but then on the other hand, with the Guardian I do around 35 to 40. So it's almost half the amount of effort for basically the same thing. Guardian is not a top tier class for damage, but she's very high up on that list, with very little effort on your part. So then let's take a closer look at all the pros. And Guardian has large AoE and burst damage. She is very strong in PvE, she has good mobility, she is one of the easiest classes to play in the game, and she has very good survivability. And then lastly you will get a lot of buffs and debuffs to use on yourself or the enemies. And then for the cons, the Guardian can feel very basic and slow to some players, as all you need to do is just use 3 to 4 skills. Then as well she has very long animations, which makes her predictable in PvP. And then lastly she lacks disengage, which makes her very weak in 1v1 fights. So overall this is amazing class for solo players. And the best thing about it is that Guardian is very powerful for both PvP and PvE. And most importantly, this is the easiest class to play. So if you're a new player or beginner, then you should definitely try this one out. So then moving over to the third class, which is the Witch. The Witch class is a typical spellcaster, with plenty of ranged AoE spells, slows, knockdowns and stuns. Her main weapon is a staff, Awakening is the Ad Sarah, and her secondary weapon is a dagger. This high damage dealing class also has a range of supporting skills, which makes her highly desirable for large scale PvP. The main difference between a wizard and a witch is that wizard is more aggressive, with burst damage and has a grab, while the witch class has a buffing block and is played more defensively, with higher range and more sustained DPS. Both classes are very similar, just witch is a female version of the mage, with unique abilities, and then the wizard is a male mage with more aggressive skills. The witch is very strong, if not one of the best PvE classes, because of her huge amount of AoE damage and her long range, so this class can easily fight and dominate almost all the other classes, besides the magic resistance and CC heavy class, like the Striker, Ninja and Mystic. So then as for your pros, the witch has very fast PvE clearing speed, she has a lot of AoE skills, then you have access to support utilities in PvP as well, then she is very easy to level, and then lastly almost any PvP group will always want a witch on their team. And then as for the cons, there are only few of them. The first one is that you have low mobility, sometimes the witch has long cast time, and then lastly this class is not the strongest in 1v1 fights. So overall, if you want to be a mage that deals super high damage from range, and you want a strong if not one of the strongest and best classes for PvE, then this is the one for you. So then as for one of the last classes, we have the lahn, and she is a martial artist. She uses a crescent pendulum as her primary weapon and a noble sword as her secondary weapon. The lahn uses melee to mid-range combos to slash at her enemies and quickly burst them down. She is a high damage duelist with lots of protection skills, mobility and CC, and as well as long range grab. This class excels in 1v1 fights, but when in a huge PvP battles, it's much harder to stay protected and do high damage at the same time. Lahn is one of the squishier classes, so you should stay away from the large scale PvP and focus more on small scale. So then moving over to the pros, and this class has very fast PvE clearing speed, which means that she can do a serious amount of damage very quickly. Then she has very high mobility and lots of gap closer skills. Then as well she has bunch of protection skills, and as a solo player, this class is pretty easy to learn. And then for the cons, as I've said, this class is the squishiest class in the game, and lahn is very weak in large scale PvP. So in most scenarios, you should always stay away from the wars and only focus on 1v1 and small scale PvP. So overall, if you're looking for a very good solo PvE class that can do high damage but is very squishy, then this is the class for you. Most of the time you constantly have to watch out and be on the move. So if this sounds fun to you, then check this one out and enjoy. So then moving over to the last and final solo player class, which is the wizard. Wizard class is typical mage caster, with bunch of ranged AoE abilities, slows, knockdowns and stuns. His main weapon is a staff, Awakening is the Gourd Sephra, and his secondary weapon is a dagger. This class is very high damage, but he has bunch of supporting skills as well, which makes him very good for large scale PvP. Wizards are very strong in group PvP and sieges, but relatively weak in 1v1, unless you catch your opponent off guard. Then as well, wizards play very offensive, and will often teleport into the enemy to grab them and then drop their high burst damage in a melee range. In PvE, the wizard is very strong and easy because of his huge amount of AoE skills and long range damage. So then as for your pros, the wizard has very fast PvE clearing speed. He has also a lot of AoE skills. Then you have access to support utilities in PvP as well. Then he's not very reliant on a high gear score because of his high passive accuracy. And then lastly, the wizard is very desired class for large scale PvP. And then as for the cons, there's only few of them. The first one is that you have low mobility. Sometimes the wizard has long cast time. Usually players choose this class if they want to focus on PvP content. And then lastly, this class is pretty weak in 1v1 fights. So overall, if you want to be a male mage and you're looking for a very strong solo PvP and PvE class, then for sure this is the one for you. So try this one out and good luck. And with that said, I really do appreciate everyone for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback or other good Black Desert online classes or guides that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you wouldn't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I will see you in my next video, so take it easy, peace.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along.